Though everything happens simultaneously, we're going to tell this story in linear fashion. In the ancient Orion systems, millions of your years ago, there was a world of great suppression, where the majority of the population were in many ways enslaved and ruled over by a troika of domineering individuals. There was a resistance movement to this that translates as the Black League, which is actually simply a reference to the idea of hiding in the shadows. They attempted to fight back, but since they were using fire to fight fire, they were eventually overwhelmed and did not succeed in changing the fate of their world. Many souls from that time, looking to transform the energy that was so dark and so negative, sought the idea of a place where such transformation could occur. When, millions of years later, because time is relative to the soul, the Anunnaki arrived on your world and through genetic manipulation began to create from the hominid that naturally evolved the beings you now find yourselves to be, Homo sapiens, as the result of that genetic manipulation by the extraterrestrial beings known as the Anunnaki, which, by the way, come from a planet in the constellation you know as Cygnus. The idea of what has been called Nibiru was simply a way station in your solar system. It is not their origin point. Nevertheless, their world was compromised ecologically, and they were seeking to correct an imbalance by mining the substance you call gold. For in atomizing it and spreading it into the atmosphere, it would reflect solar radiation sufficiently to bring balance back into the climate changes that were severe and shifting on their world. And so they came to Earth and found that the task was beyond them after a while, and so invented the idea of workers to help them, which is you. Now, they were not supposed to do that, according to the general Anunnaki laws, and so they were recalled. But the idea that they were then given was that they had, along with others, the task from that point forward of guiding humanity in its new sentiency, in its new expression of self, forward, so that you could grow, you could learn, despite the fact that they had included in your genetic makeup some things that didn't necessarily immediately allow you the same evolutionary path that they had taken, even though you were made in their image. Now, once the human form was created, the souls of Orion knew they had some place they could go, because Earth was seen and experienced, as it is still today, as a place of cycles, where things go around and come around and come around and come around. Colloquially speaking, then, if you want to put it in your modern language, they recognized Earth as a do-over planet. That you would always get another chance, and another chance, and another chance, and another chance to work through the energies of darkness and bring them into light. But it's a little bit more complex than that. For again, over time, the souls first and foremost came into the solar system. And the first world they occupied is what you now recognize as the asteroid belt that was a planet called Maldek, which was destroyed because they didn't quite work the cycle out. And there was still a lot of conflict, still a lot of negativity, and ultimately it destroyed the planet, turning it into your asteroid belt. Now, many people did not understand that millions of years ago, not only Earth, but Mars and Maldek were habitable. Your sun, long ago, was slightly more massive than it is now, and slightly hotter, and had slightly higher gravitation, pulling the planets in a little bit closer into what you call the habitable or Goldilocks zone, as your scientists say. So all 3 planets were habitable at that time. And so the souls began first and foremost to incarnate into the evolutionary beings on Maldek, and as we said, that didn't necessarily turn out as they planned. Next, they went to Mars and began to create the idea of habitation there in the life forms that naturally evolved upon that planet. Eventually, again, not quite having worked everything out, they created a vibration that allowed for a giant asteroidal impact to blow off the atmosphere of the planet. Now, there are still some primitive life forms on that planet, which you will discover soon enough. But the idea then became that the Earth was the only planet left in the solar system, whereby they could once again start up the cycle after the Anunnaki had created Homo sapien, and they found a home here on your world in terms of soul incarnation from Orion.
And the Homo sapien on your planet, after many different kinds of incarnational lifetimes, did allow itself to expand and explore the idea of creating civilizations that were similar to the galactic civilizations with whom they were interacting, and thus brought about some of the first and earliest civilizations on your planet, that which you call now in your faded memories the idea of Shamballa, the ideas of Lemuria or Mu, the ideas of Atlantis, or in its original name, Aztlan. The idea being that as these civilizations were formed, each had a specific relationship to the vibration of the earth in a very different way than what you experience now on your planet. The idea of the ancient Shamballa, in what you call the ancient Gobi Desert now, was actually a lush paradise at that time, and was formed as a center of learning, a center of spiritual growth, to aid and assist the Homo sapien in refining their vibration to a very high level. And they learned through these techniques of meditation and so forth, where this was first formed, many different ideas that were downloaded from higher levels, higher planes, what you may even call the idea of source or Akashic records. In that sense, they were a very learned society. But the idea also is that they knew things would change as they expanded out over the world. There were also other extraterrestrial infusions from time to time, what you may call interbreedings, and again the creation of certain genetic lines on your planet that would be for the purpose of aiding and assisting the Homo sapien in vibrationally connecting to its higher self. But being what it is, Earth goes through cycles, and there have been many of what you call cataclysms on the Earth that many times have wiped the slate almost clean of a variety of civilizations, to begin from a different point, to begin from a different perspective. And thus then also was Lemuria or Mu in the original language created once again by Homo sapiens. But this time you will find that they were slightly different, having now more of the genetic lines of different ancient alien societies. They were functioning in a very different way, telepathically, very, very intuitively connected to the earth. The idea being they had, in that sense, no real written language per se, except for a few simple symbols. But the idea is that they were highly telepathic, highly emotional, highly intuitive, very fundamentally natural in the same way that you now consider many of your animals to be, even though they are also intelligent in their own way. Lemurians or Muans in that sense were also slightly blue-tinged as representative of the idea of the extraterrestrial race to whom they were genetically connected. And once again, through the idea of many of the cataclysms that broke up some of the Southeast Asian land masses that formed the extension of the Asian continent into what you call the Pacific realm that was the area of Mu. As it broke up in that sense, many excursions were taken across the planet, many migrations were taken across the planet to create many other civilizations, some of which are the roots of some of the civilizations you are familiar with now. But one in particular would be what you call the American Indian or Native American or indigenous people societies of the North American continent and the African continent and so on and so forth, which progressed onto the area now in what you call your Atlantic Ocean, your southern part of what the area is that you now call the Caribbean area. That was the idea of the Atlantean area, that which now has land masses which are sunken under the ocean, which you now call the idea of the Bahamas and the Grand Bahama Banks and Cuba and part of what you call Florida and many of the submerged islands in that area all together, being above the water in those times in what you call your last ice age, presented the land mass that was the seat of government of the Atlantean civilization. And again, there was trade with what you call the Asian and now Eurasian and European continents and the South American areas. And they were mostly now remembered through the civilization or similar to the civilization that you now understand as Aztecan and Mayan and Olmec and Mixtec and many of these. Again, cataclysms occurred that pretty much wiped the slate clean, and this from the idea of what you now have come to recognize as cometary or asteroidal bombardment. The idea of the comet that, in your terms, crashed into the Atlantic Ocean and caused a tsunami that washed over the Atlantean land mass and parts of your eastern seaboard and South America and Europe and Africa, and in that sense wiped that civilization from the earth. All but the memory, but there are a few storehouses of knowledge that do remain, for they did have a written language, and these have yet to be found.
But you see, again, it's a little busier than that. Because not only, then, is Earth the recycling planet for the ancient Orion story and journey of transformation, it is also the recycling planet for the Anunnaki journey and transformation because of what they had done, creating the stories of the fallen angels in your scriptures. These were the Anunnaki who had done what they shouldn't have done according to their own laws and were tasked with the idea then of guiding humans through the idea of their beginnings, of their journey on earth. But it's even a little bit more busy than that. For you see, not only then do you have the idea of the ancient Orion recycling, the Anunnaki recycling, you have the Maldek recycling, the Martian recycling on Earth, and then when you have the parallel reality Earth that destroyed itself, creating the Greys, who came through to use your DNA to create us hybrids to allow their culture to continue, you have that particular journey of recycling and transformation as well going on Earth, playing itself out, all of these things coming together, playing themselves out on Earth, again through various cycles of build-up and destruction, build-up and destruction, build-up and destruction, from Lemuria to Atlantis to the ideas you express as your world wars. These are all recapitulations of the combination of all these things playing out, overlapping, all these stories and all these journeys of transformation going on right here in the grand central station of recycling, Earth. But now, with all of this coming together, all coming to a head, all coming to a point in the cycles that are occurring on your planet now, is the great opportunity beginning in your year of 2020 to really begin to break the chains of the old cycles and transform the ancient energy from darkness to light, allowing each and every one of you who walk that path and absorb and accept and allow that energy of transformation in to become the angels of Orion and end the cycle and begin a new one of prosperity and peace and beauty and creativity and love that will expand into the Earth becoming the 6th hybrid race, and then blend with the others to become the 7th, that will allow for a radiant energy of light to go out into the cosmos and allow Earth to become a stable beacon of energy, rather than one that recycles itself over and over and over again. So this is the birth, not only of a different Earth, but of an entirely new chapter in the idea of what Earth represents to the rest of the galaxy and the cosmos, in terms of the kind of energy it can begin to radiate to act as a stabilizing beacon for many other beings who may then ultimately have their own journeys of recycling, their own transformations to experience and partake in, and then looking to Earth to shine, even as you now look to the brightest star in the sky of Sirius, to act as a beacon to guide you into your higher selves, your better selves, to become truly fully realized and allow all the genetic markers within you from ancient times to finally open up, to allow you to express the fullness of your being and to allow you to become a member of the Interstellar Alliance in full form, that becomes a beacon, a bright shining star in the sky for millions of years to come. Does that sound like a good story? All right. So begin to awaken to the fact that all of these different journeys of recycling and transformation are overlapping now. And you can become, not only as a country, but as a world, the transformation nation. Allow yourselves to know you are innately transformers, allowing the energy to flow through you in such a way that as you then add the vibration of love and light to it, can allow it to turn into eternal light, eternal guidance, and eternal beacon that others can also allow into themselves to ignite the spark of awareness within them. We thank you all for choosing to be strong enough to play these roles, for knowing that Earth was an exciting place to be at this time, and for partaking in this journey of transformation, in this glorious transformative story. You are potentially very, very, very powerful. And in your transformation, others will see that even though all of these journeys have overlapped on your world, with all of the story that they have brought with them of oppression and negativity and darkness from so many different directions, they still knew that because of the cyclic nature of your reality, that they would have a chance again and again and again and again to bring it to this point. And now you are at this point. We thank you for allowing us to share this story and multitude of stories that you contain with you at this time. So when you look in a mirror, do not just see the idea of a single Earth human, but millions upon billions of individuals amalgamated within each of you, each telling their own stories, bringing them to this world to transform them, ultimately through those that live today. You have inherited, you are the heirs of this legacy.